I tried booty calling a man last night, and he called me and was like, hey, so I actually think that it would make more sense if I like took you to dinner first before we did that. Why was I upset? I was upset. All I wanted is the man to take me to dinner, and now I'm upset that he won't come over. But we could still do dinner later, but like tonight I want to hang out. He said, I'd rather not. I'm the problem. But I'm not gonna ever say that I'm the problem. I'm gonna blame all the prior men in my life that led me to this moment to now be this problem. So it's all your faults anyways.
Alright, lady, you are no longer allowed to blame all men for being bedroom fun-crazed maniacs when you're furious with a guy who had better things to do with his time than come over for 3 minutes with your unwashed slime bucket of burning hellfire. Do you think those toenails are gonna clip themselves? And what about the junk drawer that needs to be inventoried? Are you gonna do that for him? Well, of course you're not. So leave that man to his toenails and cataloging all of the old Upper Deck basketball cards he's got in his junk drawer, and stop making this about yourself, woman. It's your problem, you figure it out. That's what we do.
Hell yeah!
So though, how are you supposed to find a man to date when nobody's as funny and fun as your 3 best girlfriends? It's really hard. It's a very high bar. I don't know anyone that funny. What are we gonna do?
We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Well, considering the state of comedy with modern women, it really shouldn't be too hard to find a guy with a better sense of humor than your girl besties. But then again, you do strike me as the type of woman who's still offended at men for thinking that the Ghostbusters 2016 reboot wasn't entertaining. So the bar really isn't set as high as you think. But hey, if push comes to shove, you can just go ahead and move into a house together and create your internet-based reality show where you can show off your comedic antics to the world. I'm fairly sure if you apply yourself really hard, Girl Boss Comedy House can net you a whopping 200 to 300 views a year. I mean, your show won't be funny, but it'll at least prove our point, and sometimes that's a lesson that's the most valuable of all. Hope that helps, sister.
I love this plan! I'm excited to be a part of it! Let's do it!
This might be controversial, but I think about this a lot, and I don't think many people talk about it. I have dated quite a bit in my life, and I will tell you that overall I am very disappointed by men. I feel like women have evolved in so many ways, and men are so behind. And I'm a mom to a boy. I had a boy. And trying to reconcile my almost disgust in men, but now raising a man. I think about this all the time because I'm like, I can't just hate men because I'm raising a little man, and I use it as motivation. And I have made it my mission in life to create a really great man.
That is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, Tom.
Yes, it's horrible, this idea.
I don't see how you can claim to be raising a son while also having an unwarranted contempt for men. I mean, just listen to yourself, woman. You say that you are more evolved than men, but I don't see how you can be more evolved when you have such a childish and immature view on men in general. And when you don't even cite any specific examples as to why you hate us, you just say the same old tired political talking points as if that's somehow a justification for your misandry. I mean, just look at your face, woman. You hate the fact that you gave birth to a son because your hate for men is stronger than the love that you have for your own child. You can't even put the cultural crap aside and appreciate the fact that you have a son because you hate the fact that the dude who impregnated you gave you a boy instead of the girl boss bay yas queen cat lady in training that you always wanted. But hey, I'll be the bigger, more evolved one and give you a chance to fail, sister. So how are you going to be raising this paragon of manliness, I wonder? Hit me with your best shot, sister.
Out of my son, I'm talking someone that knows how to love a woman, someone who knows how to provide, protect, with high emotional intelligence. I want my future daughter-in-law to be like, damn, thank you for raising this man. But I can't help the fact that I struggle with my relationship with men in general and having a son. And I love my son more than anything.
Liar! Liar! Liar!
He is truly the most precious thing in the world, the biggest gift. But I just find it so ironic because men have really disappointed me. And it's just interesting that now I have a boy. Does anyone else think about this?
No.
And you blew it. Woman, listen to yourself. You're raising your son to be a simp, and you're not even doing it so he can become a good man. You're doing it so that the woman who will never respect him will shower you with praise instead of feeling safe with a well-adjusted masculine man. You're not raising a son. You've created a billboard where every single thing that he does is somehow going to advertise you and your so-called greatness. And if you truly love this child, you would allow him to have a father figure in his life so he can grow into a healthy adult, but you don't want that. You want to stunt this kid emotionally, strip him of his masculinity, and send him into a world where men will kick the crap out of him and women will laugh at him while sucking face with the dudes who just kicked that kid's ass. You've pretty much made it clear that his future isn't nearly as important as how women view you right now. And if you ask me, that's one of the most unloving things you can do to a child.
You! I will think of you as I throw up into the toilet.
Well, wait a minute. It's not all men. Listen, when women share their stories of abuse, neglect, harm, and your first instinct is to defend yourself instead of listening, you're not helping us. You're centering yourself. You're basically saying that your comfort matters more than our safety, that your ego is more important than our lived reality. And let's face it, even if you've never put your hands on a woman, when you rush to say not all men, you're protecting the system that does. Not all men, it's just a shield. It's a convenient exit door that you can slam shut so that you never have to look at yourself in a mirror.
What?
Well, I reckon if you're going to accuse a man of some form of crime, it'd be proper to provide some evidence. Types of women who like to do this typically say that all men are cheaters, or they love to hurt the women folk, or we're one of them newfangled serial murderers. So you can't blame a man who wants to defend himself for such talk. With the way you think, it seems like if a man robs a bank, then another man needs to investigate because the perpetrator was a man. It happened to me once. Except in this case, it was justified. Sheriff comes around the house around the 2 a.m., says I got to investigate a bank robbery. Turns out I got deputized back when Granny got a hold of the shotgun and tripped over Old Blue before shooting off the faces of 4 different men. We investigated, found out the robber was Hezekiah St. Bernard and needed the funding for his illegal hog jail operation. We didn't want to arrest him on account of having some of the best dang old hog jails in the county. But he crossed the line, and when you break the law, you answer to me.
So that you never have to ask how you might unintentionally be complicit. So you never have to challenge your own behavior or call out your friends. When your first move is to say, not me, I'm not like that, instead of, how can I help? What can I learn from this? You're not actually any different. You're just louder at pretending that you are.
Whoa, that is some deep dish racism, motherfucker.
So if you really care, prove it with your actions. Sit in the discomfort. Listen without jumping to defend. And maybe, just maybe, start showing us that you're part of the solution and not another echo of the same problem. Love you, bye.
I wish I could help you here, but I just don't want to.
Well, I find it rather peculiar that the only way for men to prove that they're part of this solution is to just blindly agree with everything that you're saying. That's how you end up in one of them cults. I had one of them come around these parts about 4 or 5 years ago. Man convinced half the town that he was the second coming of Garth Brooks reincarnated, he did. Listened to him sing one time. He only sounded like Garth Brooks after I drank about 9 mason jars of apple pie moonshine. Told me that I was a member of the Faithless, and then he signed me a copy of that Chris Gaines album for me on compact disc before he had his followers steal a boat and took it down the river. Tried to open up one of them Bible-themed riverboat casinos, but nobody really bothered with it because it was just a canoe that played some 3-card Monte. We already indulged in that particular vice by going down to old Jim Bob's cellar for some dominoes, so the whole thing was just a waste of time on his part. But I can never listen to I Got Friends in Low Places the same way ever again. And I reckon that would be a tragedy, but I was never that much of a Garth Brooks fan to begin with. So that's that.
Greetings. This is Dougie, Lock the Bounty Hunter's Emergency Copyright Protection AI voice program. I have been called into action to prevent this video from getting hit with a copyright strike for Japanese music from a woman who's more Instagram filters than actual human body parts.
Lady, you're scaring us.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that this passes for entertainment or the fact that there's an army of simps willing to consume it. But the good news is that we don't have to worry about that here because we got the fine members of the Bounty Board over on Patreon to guide us through this entire mess with an entire repertoire of dances that are bound to make anybody forget that thoughts like this exist. From the Tallahassee two-steps all the way down to the ninja rap, the Bounty Board's got you covered. Go ninja, go ninja, go, and all hail! And if you're interested in supporting the channel, check out the Bounty Board over on Patreon, where $5 a month gets you access to exclusive content you're not going to find on YouTube. I'll leave the link in the pinned comment down below if you want to check it out.
I'll never forget asking my boyfriend a million years ago to do couples therapy with me, and I couldn't wait for this couples therapist to literally tell my boyfriend at the time, sir, what are you doing? You need to change this, this, and this. And I couldn't wait. Ooh, I was frothing at the mouth. I was like, she's gonna see how right I am and how wrong he is and how he needs to get these things together, okay? So I'm there, I'm sitting, I'm waiting. I can't wait for her to tell him. And then it goes a little something she hears both sides. She's our couples therapist for a few weeks. And then she finally kind of tells me that maybe this is just who she, and this is in front of both of us. She says, Madeline, maybe blank is just who he is. Maybe this is what life looks like with him. Can you get with it or get without it? She didn't say it exactly like that, but she basically said that.
I hope it feels so good to be right. There's nothing more exhilarating than pointing out the shortcomings of others, is there?
So let me see if I can get this straight here. You forced your boyfriend at the time to spend money on a couples counselor, not to try to make the relationship work, but just so you can hope to be right about something. So you hired a female one, blindly assuming that she was going to rip your boyfriend a new one, only for her to take his side? Lady, I don't think you understand what kind of hell you have to put a man through just to get a woman to take his side. But you figured out a way to do it, and I'm almost impressed. She pretty much told you that you were the problem and that you needed to lighten up, but you're so angry that your moment to relentlessly bully this poor guy was stolen from you that you refuse to see that you are indeed the problem. But none of us actually need counselors in order to see that.
So she was sort of shining a big light in my face that as much as I wanted to control XYZ, all these things he was doing that were pissing me off, okay? Rightfully so. If I could give you the details, I would, but who cares? And no, it was really I had to come to a realization of what I can control was actually just me staying in that relationship or me leaving that relationship. That's tough. That's a tough realization when you see so much potential in something. You're like, ooh, if we could just get through this hurdle, ooh, if they could just, be consistent and change these things, ooh. But really what I had to realize is that my only power and control is to stay in it or get without it. Eventually I got without it. It was for the best. Hard realization to learn, but don't waste your time, you guys. It's probably better to get without it.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
So in other words, there was nothing wrong with him. I mean, you can't even point out anything that he did that was infuriating you so much. If you did, you'd be listing those things off fast and you can wolf down an entire can of cream cheese cake frosting. It's the entire basis for your plea for sympathy, and you write it off with a who cares. So not only did this guy do nothing wrong, you're such an entitled control freak that a female's couples counselor, who are notorious for siding with women regardless of the context, looked at you and told you that you were the problem. And the fact that you left this guy was probably the best thing you've ever could have done with this guy, because one look at you and that annoying vocal fry ridden voice of yours, and we can all tell that any man who talks to you for more than 5 seconds is in for a lifetime's worth of pure hell.
We eat the pig and then together we burn! Burn!
Ladies, he doesn't have commitment issues. He just doesn't respect you and doesn't see you as someone he could actually marry in the future. These guys will sleep with you, make you feel like you're dating, make you feel loved, make you feel special. But if they're not giving you exclusivity, if he's not in an intentional relationship with you, they know what they're doing. They don't see a future with you, and chances are they know exactly what they want. They have an image of what they think their wife will be in their head, and you are not her. Don't waste your time, your energy, your mental space on someone who only sees you as a placeholder until they find their ideal wife. Let me remind you that you deserve to be someone's dream girl. You deserve someone who is so sure of you from the very beginning that you don't have to question your self-worth or question what someone else has over you or question why someone won't commit to you. It's time to rid yourself of your anxious attachment and let go of any man who doesn't make you feel chosen.
Shut up, you don't exist.
Woman, it's not that dude's job to make you feel chosen. It's your job to give him a reason to want to keep you around, and porking ain't gonna cut it, sister. Men are just looking for women who are going to treat them with some kindness, respect, and dignity, which are 3 things that wave bye-bye to you about 30 seconds after you downloaded your first dating app. It's not that men are keeping this a secret either. If a dude is only willing to pork you, he's most likely going to make it clear that's all he wants you for. And you kept going to bed with him because he was hot and you thought if you did enough bedroom fun with him, he'd finally see that this incredibly insecure and painfully average woman was his dream girl. But it don't work that way, darling. That guy gave you a lesson in life that most men have known since their 2nd birthday, and that is exactly the 2 things that you deserve in life.
No, because they're not actually going to change. Because why weren't all the other times convincing enough for him? Why weren't all the other times reason enough for him to see you and want to be better for you? This is a man who has never had a consequence before, because he knows that he can manipulate you back into the same situation you have already been in previously. And why would it take you leaving for him to suddenly be better, to want to be better? Let me tell you something. Nobody changes unless they want to change. If he wanted to change, he would have changed well before you decided that your ass was finally out the door. That doesn't just suddenly happen like a light switch. Men don't suddenly give a shit. They care when they realize that their life is going to get exponentially harder in your absence. They care that something that has made their life very comfortable and convenient will now no longer be there. And now they're grasping at straws. They'll say anything to make sure that their comfort doesn't change. They'll say anything to make sure that your labor is still there. And that usually means manipulating you into believing that they will change, and they won't. You don't benefit from staying in that situation. He benefits from it.
That doesn't make sense.
I honestly don't see how a man can be living a comfortable life when you've got hellbeasts like middle-aged Mabel here telling them that they'll never change. But that's because they really don't have to. The whole argument that men need to change in order to make your life better always comes at the cost of having to make his life significantly worse. He needs to do more, he needs to expect less, and in exchange, you're willing to cut back on the nagging for about an average of 4 seconds a year. But middle-aged Mabel, I have to ask, what business of this is yours? You just automatically assume that all men in marriages suck unless the wife has complete dominion over that man's time and workload. Why do you insist on shoving your nose ring in other people's business? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because you're an unpleasant and incredibly hateful person. You can't stand the idea that men and women can be happy in marriages, so you insist that men must change to be considered marriage material. But for what it's worth, we have kind of changed. Most of us just turned our backs and we're no longer willing to deal with you, therefore giving you all of the free time you could ever possibly want. And your response is to get even more bitter? Well, golly gee willikers, middle-aged Mabel, there's just no pleasing you now, is there? So why don't you go sit in the corner and think about what you've done? We're gonna be over here being good people, you miserable broad. And that's going to do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and be sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you once again for checking out the new video, gentlemen and gents, and until next time, peace out, homies.